Hello, and welcome back to English Everyday Podcast. I'm Sam. I just finished this really tough workout about an hour ago, and honestly, I'm still feeling it. My legs are sore, I'm tired, and halfway through I was thinking, you know what? I could just stop. Nobody would know, right? But then I remembered this book I read recently, and I thought, no, push through. And I did, and now I feel pretty good about it, even though my legs are basically jelly right now. Like I literally had trouble walking up the stairs. So what book am I talking about? It's called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And let me tell you, this book made me feel lazy, like really lazy. This guy runs 100 miles for fun. 100 miles! I get tired just thinking about it. Today, we're going to talk about this book and some of the ideas in it. And I think you'll find that a lot of what Goggins talks about actually applies to learning English too. Mental toughness, pushing past your limits, being honest with yourself, all of that matters when you're learning a new language. All right, before we get into it, you know the method. You see the captions on your screen and you speak with me at the same time, like you're my echo. Don't wait for pauses. Just follow along and speak the words you see. And here's the thing, building mental toughness in English learning is kind of like what Goggins talks about. It's about showing up even when you don't feel like it, pushing through when it gets hard. In 6 months, if you keep doing this, speaking English is going to feel as natural as breathing. And hey, if you need me to adjust my speaking speed, just leave a comment below. I'm always reading those and I'll make changes based on what you tell me. All right, let's talk about David Goggins. So who is David Goggins? If you don't know him, he's this guy who's done some absolutely crazy things. He's a former Navy SEAL, which is one of the toughest military positions you can have. The training alone is brutal. Most people who try to become Navy SEALs don't make it. They quit because it's just too hard. He's also an ultra-marathon runner, which means he runs races that are like 100 miles long, not kilometers, miles. That's like running almost 4 marathons back to back. And he does this regularly, like it's normal or something. But here's the interesting part. He wasn't always like this. When he was younger, Goggins had a really difficult childhood. His father was abusive. He struggled in school. He faced racism. It was really tough. And by the time he was in his 20s, he was overweight, almost 300 pounds. He was working as an exterminator, spraying for bugs, which is a job he hated. He was depressed. He felt stuck. He would just come home every day, eat junk food, watch TV, and feel miserable about his life. And then one day, he saw a TV show about Navy SEALs, and something clicked. He thought, I want to do that. I want to prove to myself that I'm more than this. So he decided to completely change his life. He lost over 100 pounds in just a few months. He started training constantly. He joined the military. He went through Navy SEAL training and finished it, which most people don't. It was a complete transformation. Transformation means a complete change from one thing to another, like going from someone who was overweight and depressed to someone who does things most people think are impossible. Now, I'm not saying you need to become a Navy SEAL or run 100 miles. That's not realistic. But the principles he talks about can apply to anything difficult in your life, including learning English. Because let's be honest, learning a new language is hard. There are so many obstacles. Obstacles are things that block your way or make things difficult, like a big rock in the middle of a road. Grammar rules that don't make sense, pronunciation that feels impossible, words that sound the same but mean different things. And a lot of times we want to give up. But Goggins would say that's exactly when you need to push harder. Okay, let me say that again. Speak with me. I can push through difficult things. So one of the main ideas in Goggins' book is something he calls the 40% rule. And this is really interesting. He says when your brain tells you you're done, when you feel like you can't continue, you're really only at about 40% of your actual capacity. Think about that. When you feel completely exhausted, you've actually only used 40% of what you're capable of. You have 60% more, you just don't know it yet. He learned this during his Navy SEAL training. The people who quit, they quit when things got uncomfortable, not when they were actually unable to continue. They quit because their brain told them to quit, not because their body couldn't do it. There's the story where Goggins ran a 100-mile race, and partway through, he broke some bones in his feet. Most people would stop, right? But he kept going. He ran the rest with broken bones because he knew his mind was trying to protect him, but his body could actually keep going. Now, I'm not telling you to hurt yourself. That's not the point. The point is that our brains tell us we're done before we actually are. They tell us we're too tired to study English today. They tell us that conversation is too hard. And most of the time, that's not true. How many times have you been studying and your brain says, okay, that's enough, let's watch TV instead? But if you pushed just a little bit more, you'd be surprised what you can do. I remember when I was learning French, there were so many times I wanted to quit. I'd be in class trying to form a sentence and my brain would just shut down. But then I'd push through that feeling and I'd get the sentence out. It might not have been perfect, but I did it. That's mental toughness. Mental toughness is strength in your mind to keep going when things are hard, when everything in you wants to stop. And here's the thing, it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Every time you push past that moment of wanting to quit, you're building that muscle. Let me say that again. Speak with me. I have more potential than I think. Potential means the ability to become or do something in the future, capabilities you haven't realized yet. I think a lot of us don't realize our own potential. We underestimate ourselves. We think we can't do things before we even try. And that's what Goggins challenges. He's like, stop telling yourself what you can't do. Try it first. Push yourself first. Then see what happens. Now, another concept from the book that I really like is the accountability mirror. And this one is tough because it requires you to be really honest with yourself. Here's how it works. Goggins would stand in front of a mirror and have an honest conversation with himself. Not a nice, comfortable conversation, a real one. He'd look at himself and say, okay, what am I lying to myself about? What excuses am I making? For example, if he said he wanted to lose weight but kept eating junk food every day, he'd look in the mirror and call himself out. He'd say, you say you want to lose weight, but your actions show something different. And this is powerful because we all do this. We all have things we say we want, but then our actions don't match up. With English learning, it's the same thing. How many people say, I really want to be fluent in English, it's so important, but then they only study 10 minutes a week. They watch TV in their own language. They avoid speaking English whenever possible. And I'm not saying this to make anyone feel bad. I'm saying this because accountability is the first step to change. Accountability means being responsible for your actions, owning your choices, not blaming other things. If you're honest with yourself and say, okay, I say I want to learn English, but I'm not putting in the effort, then you can change that. But if you keep making excuses, you'll stay stuck. And we all make excuses. An excuse is a reason you give to avoid doing something. Usually not the real reason. I'm too busy. I'm too tired. I'll start tomorrow. I've used all of these, every single one. Because if something is really important to you, you find a way. You make time. Goggins would wake up at 4 in the morning to train because that was the only time he had. Was it comfortable? No, but he did it anyway. So here's a question for you. Are you making excuses about your English learning? Are your actions matching your words? Let me say that again. Speak with me. No more excuses. I'm taking responsibility. The accountability mirror isn't comfortable. Being honest with yourself isn't easy, but it's necessary if you really want to change something. All right, the last concept is callusing your mind. You might know what a callus is. A callus is hard, thick skin that forms on your hands or feet from repeated friction or pressure. Like if you play guitar, you get calluses on your fingertips because the strings hurt at first.
But if you keep playing, your skin gets tougher, and eventually it doesn't hurt anymore. Goggins uses this idea for the mind. He says you need to callous your mind by doing hard things repeatedly. Every time you push through something difficult, your mind gets tougher, and then the next hard thing doesn't feel quite as hard. This is huge for language learning. If you only do easy English practice, you'll only be comfortable with easy English. But if you challenge yourself with difficult content, if you push yourself to have real conversations, if you read articles that are above your level, you're callousing your mind. And then, when you encounter difficult English in real life, it won't feel as scary because you've trained your brain to handle difficult things. I see a lot of learners who only watch kids' shows or simple content because it's comfortable. And look, there's nothing wrong with starting there, but if you stay there forever, you're staying in your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is a situation where you feel safe and comfortable, but you're not growing. Growth happens outside the comfort zone. That's where the learning is. So my advice, mix it up. Do some easy practice that feels good, but also challenge yourself. Watch news in English, listen to podcasts, read real articles, have conversations even when you're nervous. Each time you do something hard, you're callousing your mind, and it gets easier over time. And again, if my speaking speed is too fast or too slow, let me know in the comments. Let me say that again. Speak with me. I can step outside my comfort zone. Okay, so I want to share a couple of quick stories with you. These are real things that happened, and they show how people actually use these phrases in everyday life. Last week, I was at the gym with my friend Marcus. We were doing this intense workout, and about halfway through, Marcus just stopped. He put down the weights and said, "That's it, I'm done. I can't do any more." And I looked at him and said, "Come on, man, push through it. You're tougher than this." He kind of laughed and said, "I don't know, I'm pretty tired." So I said, "No excuses. 5 more minutes. You've got this." And you know what? He did it. He finished. And afterwards, he was like, "Thanks for not letting me quit." Did you catch those phrases? Push through it. You're tougher than this. No excuses. These are super common when someone is struggling with something hard. Here's another one. My sister is learning guitar, and she called me last month completely frustrated. She was like, "I've been practicing this song for weeks, and I still can't get it right. Maybe I'm just not musical." And I said, "Hey, learning an instrument is hard. This is out of your comfort zone, and that's okay. That's where growth happens." She said, "I guess, but I feel like I should be better by now." And I told her, "You're challenging yourself. That's good. You can do hard things. Just keep going." She sent me a video last week of her playing that song. Not perfect, but she did it, and she was so proud. Those phrases, out of my comfort zone, challenging yourself, you can do hard things, these come up all the time when people are learning something new. One more quick one. My friend Jen told me about her New Year's resolutions back in January. Exercise more, eat healthier, save money, all that stuff. And I asked her a few weeks ago, "How's that going?" She laughed and said, "Not great. I gave up on most of them. Life got busy, I got tired, the usual." So I said, "But are those real reasons or are they excuses?" She got quiet and then said, "You're right, they're excuses. I need to hold myself accountable. Nobody else is going to do this for me." Then she said, "Okay, I'm starting again. No more excuses. I'm all in." Hold myself accountable. No more excuses. I'm all in. These are phrases people use when they're serious about change. So these are real conversations, and you can use these same phrases for your English learning. When you don't want to practice, tell yourself, "No excuses. Push through it." When something feels difficult, remind yourself, "This is out of my comfort zone, but that's okay. I can do hard things." Let me say that again. Speak with me. I can do hard things. All right, we've covered a lot today. We talked about David Goggins and his book, Can't Hurt Me. We talked about the 40% rule, that when you think you're done, you're only at 40%. We talked about the accountability mirror, being honest with yourself about your actions. And we talked about callusing your mind by doing difficult things. And all of this connects to English learning. Learning a language is hard. It takes mental toughness. But here's what I want you to know. You're capable of more than you think. When English feels too difficult, when you want to give up, that's probably when you need to push just a little bit more. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to show up. Be honest with yourself. Push past your comfort zone sometimes. And you know what? You just practiced speaking with me for 20 minutes. That's building your mental callus right there. Every time you show up and practice, you're proving you can do this. I know language learning can feel frustrating. Trust me, I've been there with French, but I kept going, and eventually it clicked, little by little. That's going to happen for you too. It's not a straight line. Some days will feel great, some days will feel terrible, but if you keep showing up, you will get there. So be honest with yourself. Are you making excuses? Are you only staying in your comfort zone? Are you giving up at 40%? What would happen if you pushed just a little bit more? Try it. You might surprise yourself. And remember, if you need me to adjust my speed or have questions, drop a comment below. I read all of them. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for putting in the work, for practicing, for not giving up. You're doing better than you think. All right, I'll see you tomorrow for another episode. Until then, keep practicing, keep pushing yourself, and remember, you're tougher than you think. You've got this. Take care.